Okay, so this is just to talk about what we want to do for the next session about the next release with KVM, and I'm kind of hoping not to do too much and to shake out any bugs that there are instead. Current status, currently the way we ship QEMU and KVM is there's a package in Universe which is based on the QEMU tree, and that ships all of the emulation bits and all the cross-platform stuff, so PowerPC emulator or whatever, that would come from there. And KVM itself comes from the QEMU KVM tree, which at this point is very similar to the QEMU tree, but I don't think identical yet. It's only for x86 actual KVM, and it sits in main. QEMU is, I think they might now already be in freeze for 1.0, so we'd like to get 1.0 into the LTS. And there's, apart from merging that in, the other things I want to do is that there's Spice, which gives you high performance graphics if you want to run a desktop. Right now we've got a QEMU KVM Spice package, which has its own source base, because it has dependencies on Universe. I think it was Steve Langsek had suggested that we instead base it on the QEMU tree that's in Universe, based on the QEMU Git tree. So we might do that, but I'm hoping to get Spice into main during this release. The problem is that Spice has a lot of dependencies that are scary. But if we can get Spice into main, and if that looks promising, then we'll switch to QEMU KVM just being compiled with Spice by default. Does anyone here actually use Spice or want to use Spice? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good to hear.
Definitely.
I always remap my caps lock, and I've never yet had the case where QEMU did the right thing with that, neither with VNC nor with STL. If you hit the caps lock key when it's controlled, swap to caps lock, it'll, I think, turn on caps lock in the emulator, and then you have a hard time unsetting it. You have to, right now in the precise version, you have to hold down caps lock and hit another key, and then it'll go back to not being caps lock. There have been in the past open bugs on that that were supposedly resolved. I don't know if there is a good way to resolve that correctly. I mean, it might be a case of you just shouldn't do that, but it would be nice to have that fixed. For a long time, people have been asking for VDE to be enabled in QEMU. That means VDE needs to be MIR. It is packaged, as I understand. The answer has been you should use OpenVSwitch in the past, but people aren't happy with that. Are there people here who want to use VDE?
You tell us what it does.
Yes. Some other kind of switch. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I think what it does, you can make one tap device on the host, and you run VDE, and then you can run a bunch of KVMs using that tap device instead of creating a tap device for each host.
The other one doesn't do that. Is that step further?
Right, that's not how OpenVSwitch. I don't. Yeah. The answer
supports some advanced functionality. You can simulate packet failure, bandwidth restrictions, and things like that. It's a good test bed for that sort of test.
Would it be possible to drop the one that people aren't all that interested in? This one does all that and more.
OpenVSwitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Can't drop it.
OpenStack is building a lot of stuff on top of OpenVSwitch, right? That's, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh. Yeah, I mean, OpenVSwitch is a lot more flexible, I think, in terms of network topologies they can emulate, but
I looked at the MIR, but I'm not super closely. I don't know if they're
okay.
familiar with the desire. That's about it.
So that's unfortunately two things that I want to try on MIR this cycle. And then lastly, Scott had just pointed out that he had opened the bug for a separate QEMU utils package that would have QEMU NVD and what else in it?
QEMU image.
So that you don't have to install all of KVM just to be able to mount a QEMU disk. Now, actually, libguestfs is now packaged. Does that give you any of what you need?
libguestfs is packaged?
Yeah, imprecise. It came in through Debian. Would that give you what you need, or?
I think that's awesome, but no, not really. You still, well, actually, yeah. So here's the use case. There's OpenStack that uses QEMU image in lots of places to just convert something. And if you're a node and it's like an LXC node, you actually have to install KVM in order to, on the LXC node, in order to use OpenStack, which is silly. Because it's using QEMU image.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to think. I mean, you've already got all of libvirt. It doesn't seem, but okay. I mean, that shouldn't be too hard.
A lot of freaking stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of brings up the question then again of, do we want to consider going back to merging from Debian? I think Dustin's going to say the answer is definitely no.
It's your baby. I'll give you the history if I mean, you know it, but that's your baby.
I think we'll stay where we are for now. So that's basically all that I'm planning for KVM this cycle. Is
Ceph, RBD, RADOS. That's another MIR, and we have another session on Ceph later today, but we need to throw that one out there. I think that one should be pretty essential. Basically, we need a MIR, librBD, and librados, which are two of the binary packages that come from the Ceph source package. I don't know how many build dependencies and how much of Ceph also needs to be MIR, but what that would allow
is it, or is it not safe to assume that Clint is on those MIRs?
He's already approached me on that one. I'm going to
Okay.
attend that session and have some other people come to it.
Yeah, just for what that will allow us to do is have EBS style block devices in OpenStack, but from KVM's perspective, be able to put a RBD style path as a backing disk, as a block device, which makes live migration just work in OpenStack world.
And librd and librados are part of Ceph.
Yeah, those are two libraries that come out of Ceph. I have a package in my PPA, QEMU, KVM, with those built and enabled. It's a 0.15, the 0.14 didn't work, so I had to bump to the next version.
Okay, that's what we got in precise now. So
Okay.
and all you have to do is enable it in the configure.
-- enable RBD, -- enable RADOS, and make sure the libraries are available to it in mains repository. It's done.
So I'm sorry, you said .15 is going to be in?
It's in
already
precise,
precise,
yeah.
but I mean, before this cycle is over, I do want to get 1.0 in.
Yeah.
Can I put this right here?
Is there anything else that community wants to ask, wants to really see in KVM? Okay, then this might be a...
What do you know what the schedule is for the next? Is it possible we're going to rev KVM again? It's from 0.15, the QEMU KVM. Is there another release that's going to happen between now and feature freeze that we might want to
Besides
target?
1.0?
Oh, is it 1.0?
Yeah, 1.0 is either in freeze now or it's going to be frozen next week. So my plan is to merge that in. After that, I don't know what their plans are, but I don't think I want to go any further.
Okay.
Just be careful there, because I remember seeing something from the Ceph wiki that when they released the last version of Ceph, it required a brand new KVM config.
And so you're saying, well, we might need to get 1.1.
Yeah, you may need to adjust. If Ceph goes in, you may need to adjust that.
Well,
Okay.
we just need to be testing with upstream
Yeah.
QEMU to make sure that it's not broken before they, in RC, we need to just verify that it still works. There's usually a 2 or 3 week, maybe 4 week even RC for QEMU, right? That's typically.
I think they're planning something different for the 1.0. So
Okay.
I think playing
Okay.
longer freeze. But
Okay, so you're right. I don't know. In the past, what's happened, they put out an RC. I put the RC into a PPA and asked a few people like Jamie or whomever was like a key user to do some sniff testing. Once we knew that it didn't regress anything, I put the RC even into the development, so precise, and tracked upstream QMU and QMU KVM as they went through RC1, RC2, and then GA. And that way, that is the only way to actually get some real testing, is to put it in the development release.
That's interesting.
I might also add, though it's not complete by any means, excuse me. There's a test QMU script in QRT now. It's actually does quite good. It wouldn't test Ceph, but you know, it's something that we can add to the list of tests and help build some confidence around the new version.
What are the requirements on that? Is it going to risk crashing your host? Should you, how should it be run?
I think that, well, you know, I'd have to look at it again, but
is there any way to call it?
You can do nested virtualization with it, but like the libvirt one, you need to get a VM, and then it'll do some stuff to it. It'll SSH into it. It'll do the QMU monitor with like all the different things. It'll add a disk and see if it was actually added in the monitor and if it showed up in the guest. And you know, I don't think it's destructive, except to that VM that you downloaded.
I wonder if we're at the point where we can have a Jenkins instance sit there and watch for uploads to libvirt.
libvirt one is hard, but I think the QMU one can.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm using Usernet, I think. Yeah, it tests a bunch of things. Yeah, play with it, look at it. I think
Cool.
it can.
Thanks. You were at the KVM Summit, right? Or was part of it?
Part of it, yeah.
What's their current view of the merging of the two trees?
Status quo.
There's AIO threads to worry about, and is that about it?
You know, everyone wants to do it. Still hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Like I said, status quo. Most of the, just quick report from KVM Summit, much of KVM Summit was performance testing and reliability testing of KVM, and a number of different studies and presentations on KVM meeting or beating Xen and VMware as a hypervisor. The other thing that's interesting in this space is the OVERT workshop, which is happening simultaneously this week on the West Coast. We've got one representative from Canonical there, Dan Frazier, but they're talking about KVM and a whole bunch of other things there this week. So we should probably circle back with Dan Frazier and get his trip report.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're kind of on the hook to put in, to get OVERT and its stack into P, or at least
We are?
Yeah.
What is it now at this point? I looked at it when it was first announced like 2 years ago, but I think they've completely gutted it and
It's
restarted
not
it.
the same thing at
Yeah,
all.
they reused the name.
Yeah, it's total bastardization of the name, but OVERT's now an umbrella of basically all the virtualization tools necessary to replicate VMware's proprietary hypervisor stack.
Yeah.
So more than just like KVM, and that was kind of the premise that was set forth at the KVM Summit. KVM's here, it's doing everything people need it to do now. Let's build the stuff around it to actually go and make an ESX-like server or a vSphere type cloud or something. So the things that we've, like Scott said, more or less committed to do to get into Ubuntu is to do the Ubuntu packaging of OVERT. To me, the most interesting thing there is OVERT's, the OVERT node, which is a very thin hypervisor. It's like the target is like a 100 meg image, which itself is a little more than a hypervisor in libvirt, and the tools, even a few extra things like collectd and some monitoring, but as small and thin of an image as possible,
It's
like Rev.
VMware Xen server.
Yeah, exactly, or like Red Hat's one, but to do an Ubuntu-based one for people who are interested in doing overt things, but use Ubuntu as the host. There's a little bit of packaging that we would do probably around VM Builder or Live Build to basically automate the creation of that image. So create the package set, do the configuration, and spit out a .img or .iso or whatever to be the overt node.
That could be neat.
But why, I don't understand the image. It would be a bare metal install.
You don't understand the what?
The image, it would be a bare metal install, right? I mean, why would you?
I think the general idea with that is that you would have to serve it out by some sort of Pixie server. The use case for most of these places are large installations doing thousands of nodes at a time. And so we're basically taking for granted that there's going to have to be some deployment or provisioning mechanism to get the image on disk.
Okay.
Yeah, it may be an installer mode that we add to the server install, which is install overt, which involves a fair amount of work, and I'm not guaranteeing that that'd be done, but that might be one way of doing this. So in the installer, the old thing we used to have, which was, what was it called? Juice, Just Enough OS. Overt is kind of like that, except it's going to define the APIs that KVM or the other layers need to get into it. If we want there to be Ubuntu overt nodes, we're going to need to do that packaging. Red Hat's kind of already there with Rev.
But minimizing it to like a slimmed down, lightweight, just base image isn't necessarily a requirement, right? I mean, that's kind of the analogy to, I mean, it's very similar to what the Kronos Project XCP thing is. I mean, Zen Server is exactly that. It's just a minimum installation with no resources, with dedicated DOM 0 and this big tool stack that lives on top of it. But porting that to Ubuntu would be the same tooling on top of a regular Ubuntu distribution.
Right.
So the requirement to strip everything down isn't really there.
Yeah, but the point is that the overt work group, of which Canonical, IBM, Red Hat, a bunch of others have kind of come together to try and build that alternative to VMware's proprietary thing, which is part of it is the overt node. If we want Ubuntu to work there, we're going to have to do the work to make that package. So they'll define the things that it expects on that image and the way it's configured and the way it runs and works. And then it would be up to us to automate the building of that for precise, either spinning out an ISO or an IMG, or having an installer mode, a pre-seed basically, that does the same thing. Yeah, I could see it tied into Orchestra, right? Yeah. I mean, Orchestra saying deploy, instead of deploying fat Ubuntu 500, 600 megabyte, very useful server, instead deploy thin hypervisor overt node and letting Orchestra do that over and over and over again.
That's the way that makes most sense.
Okay.
I don't know, that's kind of what I would think, right?
Then that's just a pre-seed and probably some late command post-instance instructions.
And if you want, I mean, at that point, if you want to install if you want to pop out an image, you can do a cone install to an image.
Exactly. So maybe that's the work item, is the Orchestra integration of overt node, the pre-seed definition. It can be a pre-seed we ship as part of Orchestra.
Yeah.
But it's not a work item yet. That's pending.
We need to hear back from Dan. Dan's going to report back from the conference this week, and we'll have a better idea. And that may not necessarily even have to live on the platform team. Dan works on the OEM server team. OEM, Canonical OEM is quite interested in this concept of thin hypervisors, producing those images for the blade chassis, are where this is really useful. To have a blade chassis that's just a bunch of thin hypervisors that get carved up.
Yeah, there's a separate session, I haven't found when it is yet, but on the KVM performance measurement, which is a blueprint from last cycle. So I'm hoping to actually get some of that done. That we were hearing last night, I forget from who, that apparently to get really good performance, you have to pick just the right tunables. Like apparently there's the vhost net. Was that, Scott, what the module was for networking?
There's a kernel module. There's a kernel module that needs to be loaded basically, to improve VirtIO performance.
Right. So I don't know if we want that loaded by default when we install KVM. I mean, it seems
something like that. Did you write that down?
Not yet.
What is it called?
I think vhost nets. Oh, I wouldn't have it on here.
Sure. I was like, sure you'll have that, and then no, you won't.
Kind of adjunct here, but what about OpenVSwitch? Is that pertinent?
We've talked about VDE. The OpenVSwitch, is that in main now? I thought someone pulled that in main last cycle.
Does OpenStack depend on OpenVSwitch?
I mean, it does if you want to use OpenFlow.
Not this cycle, then. Oh, Quantum.
Sorry?
Quantum, right?
Quantum relies on OpenVSwitch.
Right, but
What is OpenFlow?
OpenFlow is like, it's like Espo. It's like, it's going to be a key part of what Nsira is doing inside of the OpenStack ecosystem. It basically allows you to create virtual routers, do layer 2 or layer 3.
Let's all be on SX, right?
Yeah.
No. Quantum will be part of SX.
So OpenVSwitch is not in main for Oneric. I'm not saying that it has to be, but I was just wondering if there's any work we need to do around there. The vSwitch kernel module is not yet upstream. I think
it will be like in a month or two.
Is Quantum
in 3.2?
I just loaded it in America.
It's DKMS.
Yeah.
Why don't I have it in my... never mind.
Well, yeah. So I didn't realize it either, but I was talking to the Red Hat guys at OpenStack, and they were like, "Yeah, those Ubuntu bastards are shipping out of tree kernel modules, OpenVSwitch." I was like, "Really?" And I went and checked, and it's DKMS. So, and then explained to them how DKMS worked, and they were like, "Damn, that's kind of cool."
Works on Red Hat too. It's from Dell. That's how they ship their modules.
Yeah. Seems appropriate.
Okay, so, I mean, do you think we need to pursue that?
Not really. I didn't know if KVM needed to do anything OpenVSwitch wise. I didn't know if this was a generic. Is this KVM specific?
It's just
and
the drop-in bridge replacement. I mean, that's all it is. But I'll tell you, companies like Nebula are going to rely on LTS's IP with this functionality. So we don't want to go load OpenVSwitch as a drop-in replacement and then not be supported by you guys.
Right, but it's just a replacement for a regular bridge, so KVM shouldn't need any, no configure switches needed.
No, I don't think so.
Right, so KVM currently, or it's actually libvirt currently uses BR utils or something like that. It may not, it's probably not a 1204 thing, but down the line, we could probably do more powerful things with KVM out of the box, using OpenVSwitch instead of a BR utils or something.
Okay, then I should maybe look into, tomorrow's the libvirt session. Probably be ready to answer that question.
Yeah, you might just take a quick look at OpenVSwitch and get an idea of what it can do.
There goes my notebook. Anything else that OpenStack might? I mean, this is a long LTS. Right?
The only thing I might add is today RBD isn't loaded by default. So I don't know if this is more of a topic for the 3 o'clock talk or now, but
RBD kernel module?
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be for a kernel session.
Okay.
Oh, for the Ceph session.
It's part of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the session?
When is that?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock today.
There's a kernel session?
Should go with that.
No, but someone from the kernel should be in the Ceph session,
Yeah.
whoever's looking after file systems for you guys.
Ceph session, okay. What time is it? Where?
3 o'clock?
3:07.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ceph is a cluster file system. It's in the upstream kernel. We may need to do some additional configuration or modular or built-in or whatever you guys do when you decide.
But the focus is on the RBD, not the file system.
Right. And that's used for the client, right? Yeah.
So you have a question in the RFC?
Oh, Peter here?
Well, we have iPixie in main, and actually that's something that should have been on this session. I've been quietly proposing that So I guess it was Soren was explaining that KVM Pixie originally was just the ROMs out of Etherboot that we needed for that KVM could actually use. Since Etherboot is now obsolete and abandoned, maybe KVM Pixie should be completely changed to be just the bits from iPixie that we want for KVM. And since iPixie is in main, we can put KVM Pixie in the main then.
That would be wonderful. And then actually recommends it too.
Yeah, I mean, right now it recommends iPixie, I think.
It does not recommend KVM Pixie.
It suggests
It's a problem
iPixie.
that when you want to boot a VM with Pixie, it breaks because it doesn't tell you anything. And
Yes,
it's not-
and you
there's no
start
damage
checking
on
all
KVM
sorts of
Pixie.
things and you swear
You
a
have to
lot.
find out in Launchpad or in Forum that you have to install that package for it to work.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But that would be awesome, because, I mean, the reason it doesn't suggest it or recommend it is just because then it would pull in the universe by default. So, if
That
we
is the
use
only
it for
reason?
I mean, that's why we wouldn't do that, because it would get universe.
okay, I thought maybe we just didn't want the extra blobs for people who aren't going to be doing network booting. And in the past, fewer people were doing network booting than now.
I think that's increasing now, potentially, and we've got enough MIRs. It's just another thing for the security team to support. So yeah, give it to them.
Okay,
No,
so-
he's saying we don't need to MI or anything.
Right,
Because
iPixie
iPixie is in there?
iPixie is in main.
Oh, good. There you go, dodging another bullet.
Good.
So is there anybody who would have a problem with Etherboot being completely gone?
No.
I can't imagine anybody would be, but if someone's depending on some quirk. Okay.
I'm just looking for.
Completely gone out of main. Like, drop it to universe, people can use it. Are you talking?
No, I'm talking about KVM Pixie, which is currently, it's based on the Etherboot source package. It would become based on the iPixie source package.
Right, and that, yeah.
And is there an Etherboot binary package? I don't think there is. I think the Etherboot source package only creates KVM Pixie. So yes, that package would
I'll check, but I think you're right.
disappear. Which, since it's not maintained, it probably should not be in our archive anymore. I mean, those bits are old at this point.
That sounds like a great to-do for the LTS, and not terribly difficult.
Oh, one thing in Spice that there's apparently CBIOS needs to be updated. Spice isn't working with QXL. That's another to-do for me. There is an open bug for that one though.
It does. There is an Etherboot and a KVM Pixie binary package, both produced by that. I don't know what it entails. I think we can ensure that we have the coverage we need, though.
So you're going to have iPixie provide KVM Pixie?
Right.
You're just going to do some packaging jujitsu.
Yeah?
libgfs. I'm excited about libgfs.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Although the AMD 64 build failed, so it doesn't.
Really?
Yeah, it sporadic failure, I think. So I retried it, and maybe it'll go.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the packaging. I just saw that saw one day it went into Debian, and I was like, well, maybe I should do a request for it. And that's all it was already in this place.
How are they managing the?
So I have to get installed it, and it pops up. There's a depackage
It
thing that
bootstraps
says,
the
"Do
new-
you want to build that image now?" And then
The bootstraps it right there.
yeah.
Interesting.
And then it says it'll update when the guest runs. I don't really know.
Interesting. Let me know how that works out for you. Huh. Etherboot does install a bunch of ROMs, Ethernet card looking ROMs, and no small number of them either.
Well, I don't know what the answer there is if we get rid of the Etherboot binary package or not.
Like hundreds of them.
But who's going to consume them?
I don't know.
VMware users maybe?
I don't know. 1,053 of them.
Okay, well, I think we might be done. Is there anything else to discuss? Okay, thanks everyone.